Hello, everyone. Daniel here from the Next Issue Podcast. On today's video, I'll be doing a review for the Acolyte of the season finale. This is episode 8. Um, and then I'll also talk more about my overall just things I liked and disliked about this whole season. It was a whole mixed bag, I'll tell you that for sure. I think this episode closes out a lot of things very well, but I think it also leaves a lot of things kind of either unexplained, a little nebulous or confusing. And that's kind of a reflection of the full season as a whole. So let's get into what happened in this episode. Then we'll get into my final thoughts for the season. Just a couple of things that I want to hit on real quick. And then, of course, make sure to let me know what did you think about this episode down in the comments. So we begin the episode with Osha seeing a vision of the future in which May kills Soul and fulfills kind of his mission. We also see how May escapes from Soul's ship. They do like this really interesting looking asteroid chase. The one thing I don't understand is why Basil would allow or help May escape from Soul. Like I thought he was on Soul's side, but I guess not. Maybe I don't know. That seemed a little weird. We do see that the senator visits Vanastra just to kind of really call her out and everything that the Jedi have been doing, which is a threat that I wish they had either explored more or dropped it all. Like all that stuff with the Senate, I feel like the show, maybe in the right was trying to do a little bit of things for our next season with the whole battle with the Senate and the Jedi being investigated. So I don't know. We see also as Quimir and Osha leave the island, they decide to go chase down May and Soul. We see a dark figure, which for those that may or may not know, like although it hasn't been really confirmed anywhere that I've seen it, it has to be Darth Plagueis, right? That's who that like the appearance, the description that we know from all the other stuff. That may be legends, but I mean that's kind of what he's supposed to look like. So that was interesting. Although I that was another thing that I wish they had almost even started trying to seed in from the beginning. So I don't know. We see everyone pretty much converges back at the fortress when on Brendok, where the Coven used to reside. Everybody kind of gets there on their own, right? May shows up, being chased by Soul. Um, we see Quimir confronting Soul. Really good fight. Like I was wondering if this might be one of the longest lightsaber duels that we've ever seen on live action. I'm gonna need you guys in the comments to let me know about that. We also see that Osha and May finally talk about airing out all their grievances, and then they end up fighting. Now, of course, there's confrontation because it feels like their objectives, which have not really been clear all throughout the season, have kind of switched. I'll talk about that in a second. May then ambushes Soul, and Soul finally admits to killing their Mother Anasea, in front of both of them. Like Osha was off in the distance, listening in, and then May was right there. So Osha finally kills Soul. Really impactful moment for sure. She kills Soul using a force force choke, pretty much. So without a lightsaber, without a weapon, which was May's original mission, right, to kill a Jedi without a weapon. And then also we see that as she holds Soul's lightsaber in her hand, the crystal begins to bleed, and that's bleeding. The Kyber crystals is how the Sith make the red lightsabers. So really interesting. We also know that Venestra, as the Jedi show up in Brendok as well, she knows Quimir. She can feel him out. Like as soon as she feels his presence, he puts his helmet back on because that kind of shields him. Think of it as Magneto's helmet, I guess, that protects him from Professor X. Uh, Quimir, and I know he has a different name, or either the Master or the Stranger or whatever. I just keep calling him Quimir just to make it easier. Uh, Osha decides that the best way to help out May now that she's going to be ambushed because she doesn't want to go, right, is that to mind wipe her so that she forgets everything about Kumir, everything about Osha, which is weird. Like they kind of just wanted to switch May and Osha from the beginning, and I don't know that that was clear all throughout the season. So the Jedi do end up arresting May, and they bring her to Venestra. And I was wondering at first why Venestra was in a formal attire talking to May and questioning her about everything. But of course, because May's mind was wiped, she doesn't really remember anything. Um, but we do see that she was talking to the Senate, and they just kind of blame Soul for going rogue for and blaming him for everything that happened, the murders, everything that happened on Brendock. It's wild that they made Soul the scapegoat after we saw that he was such a good character. Yeah, just such a I don't know, very weird and it's interesting choices here. I don't mind the Jedi being seen as an organization that is flawed because that just inherently any large organization like that will be flawed. There'll be issues, but I also feel like sometimes the decisions that they make for that don't fully make sense with what they've been planting in the story. Like, what is Venestra's end game? Like, we never saw her like full intentions of like just covering everything up. We do end up finding out that Quimir was Venestra's pupil at some point, so maybe he hasn't been around as long as we think. But Quimir and Osha do finally go back to the island. They end in a scene where they're kind of holding hands. It's weird. Um, Look, I don't know their ages, so I don't know like how that. It, the master and apprentice relationship, I've never seen it expressed in such a way. So I don't know. That was a little jarring. And then the last thing that happened, we do get an after credits with which I knew was coming from the moment this show was announced. We see Vanestra going to talk to Master Yoda. Now I knew that was going to happen from a long like from reading the comics. We know that in the books we know that Yoda is a character that's present during the High Republic, just due to how long he lives. And then earlier in the episode, Vanestra made a call to someone asking to speak to them later. So I knew that was going to be Yoda. So I don't know. I mean, fan service is always good. Uh, this just feels a little kind of like like I almost as an afterthought. Like, oh yeah, it would be cool if Yoda shows up. So yeah, not the strongest finale. Not the strongest season overall. Like I don't dislike the show, but I also don't think it's like there's a lot of issues with it, a lot of inconsistencies. So let me go through some of the stuff that I like though. Jodie Turner Smith really crushed it as Mother Anastasia. I think every time she was on screen, you could feel like it really meant a lot to the show. Of course, Carrie Ann Moss was also incredible. Anytime she was on an episode, I was very excited. Manny Jacinto as Quimir and the Stranger, and like in this role as this dark Sith Lord, maybe rising. Like he's also great. His fighting choreography was incredible. His demeanor, like all his choices, and of course, like he looked jacked. So yeah, very cool stuff. Speaking of fighting, all the fights in here, like whether it was the lightsaber stuff, whether it was just stuff without without weapons, like just martial arts stuff, like it looked great. I think everybody did a great job when it comes to that. So choreography, stunts, like this show really nailed all those aspects of that. There was a lot of interesting uses of the Force, and there was some stuff that I really like them exploring this idea of the Force being called different things by different groups, right? The witches would call this the thread, and they applied it and they used it a little bit different. So that was really cool to explore. Of course, lightsabers, fantastic stuff. Every time we saw them, I don't know any time that in a live action thing where I had seen so many on screen. Maybe during clone the Attack of the Clones. Maybe there was a lot of them there during the arena scene. The whip lightsaber was cool. Unfortunately, it was a thing that we just saw once. Only one time. And then seeing Kalnaka, like I wish I had seen a little bit more of him as a Jedi and explore that a little bit. Like there's a reason that Wookiee at some point were not allowed to become Jedi, and maybe it's because of their emotions. But yeah, a Wookiee with a lightsaber, really cool fight, especially because he was being mind controlled. So it was like him against other Jedi. Um, and then some of the things that were not really up my alley, maybe they didn't really fully hit. Vanestra, all her decisions were very unclear. Like I almost wish they had given all these decisions to Indara, like make her more of the one that's trying to hide things, but uh, it just leaves Vanestra's character as very unexplored. Like she was always back at the base, like she wasn't even part of the mission. So the protagonist, as much as I enjoy the idea of Ocean May being this like a force pairing. I think that part's really cool. But just like their whole switch overall, they talk about in wrestling, like doing the double switch from a heel and a baby face. The double switch is one of the hardest things to do, and I think they should try to do that by making sure that Osha started on one side and May started on the other side, and then they wanted us to accept that they just kind of throughout the whole throughout their arcs they switch sides, like yeah, heal the bad guys and babyface the good guys. I don't think they fully nailed that. So and some of the tension stuff just kind of felt a little bit empty because of the inconsistency. And so some of the writing, some of the events, like it was just like some weak moments that were all throughout. Some of the periphery characters were just didn't feel like fully realized characters. Like Banistra's assistant Jedi. Yeah, there was just some stuff. Really cool stuff. I really liked some of the other, like all four Jedi that were part of the integral part of the mission. I think they were cool, especially like Daphne Keen's Jedi. I think she was amazing. I'm pretty sad that she actually died because if there was another season of this, and I don't know if there will be, I would have loved to have seen that character come back. But here we are. Unfortunately, she had to pay for her master's indiscretions, or the consequences of his actions came back to bite her. And then just like the fan service moments, like I wish they meant a little bit more, but to me they really feel just a little bit tacked on. So I don't know. Like I said, inconsistent all the way through. Not the worst thing I've seen in Star Wars, definitely, but also not the best. Like there's been some really quality Star Wars stuff that I really enjoyed. So this was, I struggle to really care about the High Republic, and I don't know why that is. I know they keep saying like let's move away from the Skywalker saga, but like that's the part where I emotionally connect with most of the characters, or just even that time period. It doesn't even have to be. It doesn't have to be the characters. You don't have to keep following the Skywalkers, but I do love that all the way from Episode 1 to Episode 9, like that whole time frame. If we just kind of live there forever, I'm fine with that as long as we explore different regions of the galaxy, different genres of like shows. I would love to see a comedy, or maybe like a romantic comedy in Star Wars would be great. Like a really hard drama, like the political thriller that we're getting with Andor is fantastic. So I don't know. I feel like Star Wars can be such a flexible. Like the murder mystery of this was an interesting idea for sure. I don't think it was executed the best, but there you have it. Those are my full thoughts on The Acolyte season 1. But let me turn over the conversation to you. How did you enjoy this season? What were the highlights? What were the lowlights? All that fun stuff here. Let me know down in the comments, please. And as always, thank you for watching, especially those that watched every review episode. I really appreciate that. It just helps the channel grow for sure. So with that being said, make sure to share, like, comment, subscribe, and stay tuned because we have more comic reviews, trailer reactions, TV recaps, all that fun stuff here in the channel. And as always, may the force be with you, and thank you for watching, everyone. Bye bye.